Authority, conflict and discord. All around us, the news cycle broadcasts angry voices, often stirring fear and uncertainty, less often raised in righteous condemnation of the unjust. It's little wonder, especially in this year, that people stop watching or listening to the news. Our hearts just can't take any more, and so we literally turn off. And we might think that our readings this morning are all about authority, conflict and discord, and so we might likewise be tempted to literally turn off. Certainly they serve as a reminder that conflict and discord and questioning civil authorities is nothing new. But if we did tune out, if we did dismiss them out of hand, then I believe we'd run the risk of missing the deeper message that these readings are actually all about love. Love. How do we get to love from here? From Pharaoh and plagues and Passover, to Paul and political powers, to lost sheep and penitence, on the first reading, it's all very hard. Last weekend, we heard a passage from Romans 12, in which Paul outlined a household code or instructions or rules for living. That passage in Romans 12, which is one of my favourite Pauline pieces, sees Paul encouraging the new Christian community to live out their faith in their lives, welcoming the stranger, caring for the poor, the ill, the needy, sharing what they had generously, and insofar as it was up to them, living peaceably with all. In essence, they were to live lives of love, or echoing last weekend's gospel, lives which bear the shape of the cross. And living this life of love, this cross-shaped life, so transform the community around them. But why did Paul write these things? In the faith traditions which these new Christians came from, be they Jew or Gentile, all of them had codes for living. The Judaic codes, the Ten Commandments, the prescriptions of Deuteronomy and Numbers, they are familiar to us. Paul, in this letter to these new believers, describes a new way of living based not on a law of fear and restriction, but a law of love. Now, some in the early church anticipated the coming of Christ so keenly that they felt they could disregard the secular laws because Christ was coming and all that was in the world would be swept away. Paul's injunction here in chapter 13 is speaking against this practice. In a sense, Paul's saying, be ready, yes, but respect the authorities for the role they play in keeping good order now. Give to the authorities what is due to them. Indeed, he says, give to all people what is due to them, that is, honour and respect. And in the end, Paul returns to this theme of love. All the commandments, all the law can be summed up, he says, like this: love God, love others as you would be loved yourself. Give to others, including God, what is due to them. Give love. And so to Matthew's Gospel. In the passage we hear this morning, it starts with an abridged form of the parable of the lost sheep. And in essence, we know that these parables about the lost things are stories about love searching, about unconditional love, about risky love, because the shepherd risks all that he has, the 99 sheep, in order to go after the one that is lost, the one that is missing, the one that has strayed. This is not economic rational sense, but it is the call of love. And then following this parable, this teaching about the call of love, Jesus outlines a way of dealing with discord, a teaching on it. He outlines a series of steps for resolving conflict: speaking privately, taking a few with you, telling the church. And then Jesus says, "And if all of this fails, let such a one be to you as a tax collector and a Gentile." We hear those words, a tax collector and a Gentile. And the way the context reads, we determine that this can't be good. Our natural inclination after a series of failures at attempting to resolve a difficulty might be to wash our hands of the matter. But Jesus, using this phrase, reminds us of something at the heart of the gospel. Sometimes we read things that are epiphany moments for us. And you've often heard me refer to Sam Portaro, an Episcopalian priest, whose writings I often find insightful. Many years ago, I read a reflection by Sam Portaro on this passage, in which he reminds his readers that for Jesus, tax collectors and Gentiles were exactly the sort of people that he chose to be with. They were the sort of people that Jesus sought out and brought in. They were like the lost sheep of the parable. They were the ones on the edge, the outcasts, the misfits, and it was to such a one as these that Jesus searched and welcomed in. These ones with unconditional love. It's why I think that it's important that we see this teaching on resolving conflict as prefaced by this parable of the lost sheep. It's to remind us that no one is beyond the reach of love. And whilst there might be times when we don't agree with someone, ultimately we are all called to still live lives of love, cross-shaped lives, showing that love to everyone, including those whom we might find it difficult to love, for in such a way we are agents of transforming love, God's transformation in the communities in which we find ourselves. COVID time has made us think about what living lives of love looks like in different ways. Washing hands and self-isolating, physical distancing, wearing a mask, actions which before this year we would have thought put a barrier between us and others. But in the lens of this year's experience, we now understand that these can be seen as signs of love, of care for the other. Because no matter how hard it is at times, Paul reminds us that love means giving what we would have receive ourselves. So we are called to give love, because in the beginning, God gave us love. Love made flesh, love like us, incarnate love, love for a world. Amen.